Chapter 16. We flee the room, and I have the urge to sprint to wherever Ella's leading me. She glides swiftly and soundlessly across the cold floor. The corridor is dark, and while I see everything clearly, every so often Ella flicks on the flashlight to orient herself, then quickly turns it off. When we reach the nave, I think she's going to head towards the north tower, but she doesn't, and instead guides me up the center aisle. We skitter past the rows of pews. At the nave's front, stained glass saints line the curved wall, and the moonlight behind them brings a celestial radiance that gives each a more biblical appearance than they've ever had before. Water drips in a constant patter somewhere. Ella cuts a right turn at the front pew and sweeps towards one of the many open recesses that run the length of both walls. I follow. The air is cooler here than in the nave, and a tall statue of the Virgin Mary looms over us with arms lifted from her sides. Ella goes around her, and when she reaches the back left corner, she turns to me. "I'll have to bring it down to you," she says, putting the flashlight in her mouth. She takes hold of the stone pillar and scoots up it like a squirrel clawing up a tree. All I can do is watch in amazement, so impressed by her mobility. When she's almost at the ceiling, she pauses and then swings around the column, disappearing into a tight little nook that's almost invisible from where I stand. I never noticed the nook before. Lord knows how Ella did. I crane my head to listen, hearing the rough friction of her shoes scrape along the rock, which means there's just enough room for her to crawl. Some kind of tunnel. I can't help but smile. I knew the chest was here, somewhere, but I would have never found it in a million years if it weren't for Ella. I laugh at the thought of Adelina scaling the same column with the chest so many years ago. Ella has stopped. I hear nothing. 20 seconds pass. "Ella," I whisper. She sticks her head out and looks down. "Should I come up?" She shakes her head. "It's stuck, but I almost have it." "I'll bring it down to you in a minute," she whispers back, and then yanks her head back in and disappears. I can't take the suspense of not knowing what's going on up there. I look at the base of the column and take hold of it, and just before I'm about to try climbing it, I hear a noise behind me that sounds like somebody kicking a pew. I spin around. The Virgin Mary blocks my view. I walk around her and scan the nave, but I don't see anything. "I got it!" I hear Ella exclaim. I rush back around the statue and look up, waiting for her to appear. I can hear her grunt and struggle to drag the chest to the nook's opening, and I have no idea if it's because the chest is heavy or because the tunnel is so narrow. Little by little the dragging continues. I feel nothing short of ecstasy at finally having the chest in my possession, and I don't even consider the problem of getting it open. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Just as Ella is almost to the opening, I hear something else behind me. "What are you doing up?" I whip around. Divided equally on each side of the Virgin Mary, Gabi and Delphina stand under the statue's left arm while Lagordo and the wiry Bonita, the champion of the dock game that almost got me killed at the lake, position themselves beneath the right arm. I glance over my shoulder and see two small eyes peering down at us from the nook's opening. "What do you want?" I ask. I wanted to see what the little tattletale was up to, that's all. "You know, it's funny because I saw you sneak out of the room and I thought that I would get up and finally see what it was you're always looking at on the computer, but you weren't there." Gabi paints a sarcastic, confused look on her face. "You were in here, which is really weird." "Really weird?" "It's really weird," Lagordo says. To my relief, I don't hear Ella dragging the chest anymore. "Why do you even care?" I say. "Seriously. All I ever do is keep to myself and keep my mouth shut." "I care a lot about you, Marina," Gabi says, stepping forward. She flips her long dark hair. In fact, I care so much that I worry about you hanging out with that loser drunk, Hector, all the time. Do you get drunk with him? She pauses. Do you drink from his bottle? I don't know if it was because she called Hector a loser, or because she thought our friendship was anything more than just that, or because she is snooping on what I'm doing at the computer, but it just happens. I close my eyes and reach out with my mind, grabbing all four of them at once. Lagorda screams, while the other three whimper in shock. I pick them up off the ground, their bare feet kicking at the air, their shoulders smashed against each other's, and thrust them all across the smooth floor until they bounce off the steps leading to the raised dais at the back of the nave. Lagorda slaps the floor with her open palms and gets to her feet like an angry bull ready to charge the conquistador. I run to her instead, making up the ground in a matter of seconds. Lagorda swings a wild punch and I duck, only to spring up and jam my right fist into her chin. She falls backwards with a gasp, and her head thuds against the floor. She's out cold. Bonita jumps on my back and pulls at my hair. Someone punches me in the left cheek, and the other kicks me in the shin. Bonita slides down my back and hugs my upper arm so I can't move. Delphina swings and I duck. The punch glances off Bonita's mouth and she loosens her grip enough for me to twist away. I grab Bonita's right arm in my hands and I drive her towards Gabi. You're dead, Marina. You are so dead. Bonita shrieks, and I pull her sideways and knee her in the gut, knocking the wind out of her. I shove her to the ground next to Lagorda. Delphina's confidence is broken. She looks for the door. You ready to leave me alone? I ask her. Doesn't matter. I'm going to get you tomorrow, she says. Right when you're not looking. You're going to wish you didn't say that. I fake right and lunge left, tackling her around the waist. Gabi tries to grab my hair but I whip Delphina around to block her. Then I pivot on my heels and release Delphina down the middle aisle of the nave. Her back hits the first step at the altar, and her groan echoes off the vaulted ceiling. Gabi circles me. I'm telling Sister Dora. You're going to be in so much trouble. I turn my body to keep my eyes on her. She stops right next to the column. I can tell she's about to charge and I'm ready for it. Suddenly I see a flash of white above Gabi's head. It takes me a second to recognize that it's Ella, and she's jumped from the nook all the way down onto Gabi's shoulders. Gabi flails around until she can get her hands on Ella, and when she does, she tosses her onto the floor with a horrible cracking sound. No! I yell, and then I punch Gabi in the sternum as hard as I can. Her feet leave the ground and she hits the wall, knocking dust from the stone wall's mortar. Ella's on her back, wailing, writhing in pain, but I notice she keeps her right leg completely still. I kneel beside her and pull up the bottom of her nightgown to see a sharp white bone sticking out of her skin just below the knee. I don't know what to do. I put my hand on her shoulders to try to console her, but she's in so much pain, she doesn't feel it. I'm right here, Ella, I say. I'm here right beside you, and everything is going to be okay. Her eyes open and she gives me a pleading look. It's then that I see the damage done to her right hand. Her tiny fist is mangled, crooked, blood seeps out between her index and middle fingers. Her talent. Oh my God, Ella. I'm sorry, I cry. I'm so sorry. She just cries. I feel myself begin to sweat. Never in my life have I felt so useless. Try not to move, I say, knowing it's a futile plea. The nearest hospital is a half-hour drive. She'll pass out from the pain by then. She starts to rock in a rhythm from side to side. I hover my shaking hands over the shard of bone sticking out of her leg, not knowing if I should apply pressure or try to push it back under the skin. I decide on applying pressure, and the second my fingers touch her skin, Ella stutters with a sharp intake of breath. An icy tingle inches up my spine, a feeling much like the times I've brought life back to the flower in the computer room, and the feeling spreads throughout the rest of me. Is it possible that my ability to heal plants applies to people as well? Ella stops crying and starts breathing rapidly, her tiny chest rising and falling, rising and falling. I can feel the iciness concentrate in my palms and circulate outward from my fingertips. I think I can fix you. Her chest continues to rise and fall at an abnormal speed, but her face takes on a look of peacefulness, of detachment. I'm afraid to, but I place my hands over the piece of bone that sticks out from her leg. I feel its pebbly, broken end, and soon it begins to retreat back under the skin. The puncture wound turns from red and white back to the color of her skin, and I can see the jagged contours of her broken bone move and shift within her leg, setting itself back in place. I'm amazed at what I've just done. This could be my most important legacy yet. Keep still, I say. One more thing. I close my eyes and wrap my hands around her thin right wrist. The iciness flows again through my fingertips. I open my eyes to watch her palm rise and her fingers spread away from each other. The cut between her index and middle fingers closes, and I see two broken knuckles straighten and mend. Ella clenches her hand and relaxes it. I've done what Lorien has intended me to do, and that's to undo damage that's been inflicted on those who don't deserve it. Ella turns her head to the right to look at my hands wrapped around her wrist. You're fine, I say. You're better than fine. She raises her head off the ground and props herself up onto her elbows. I pull her into my arms. We're a team, I whisper into her ear. We take care of each other. Thanks for trying to help. She nods her head. I squeeze her and then pull away. I look around at the girls, all of them unconscious but breathing. Sticking out of the opening of the nave, I see the edge of the chest. I'm so proud of you for finding the chest. You have no idea, I say. Let's get it tomorrow morning after we've had some rest. Are you sure? Ella asks. I can climb back up and get it. No. You go wash up in the bathroom, and I'll be right there. When she's finally out of my sight, I raise my eyes to the chest. Concentrating, I float it silently down to my feet. Now I just need to get Adelina to open it with me. Chapter 17. As I burst through the burning door and land on the melting brown carpet of the living room, several things race through my mind. Sam. Henri's letter. The chest. Henri's ashes. I engulf myself purposefully in flames in order to move easily from room to room. Sam. I yell. Where are you, Sam? Past the living room, I see that the entire back wall of the house is burning. The house could collapse in a matter of a minute. I dart into the bedrooms calling Sam's name. The bathroom door explodes with my kick. I check the kitchen, the dining room, and just when I'm about to try the living room again, I look out the window and see the chest and a pile of our belongings, including the laptop, the coffee can of Henri's ashes, and the unopened letter, on the lip of the pool. Something small bobs in the middle of the water. It's Sam's head. He sees me and waves his arms. I crash through the window and knock over the grill. I dive into the pool, the flames surrounding me hissing into gray and black smoke. You okay? I think so, he says. We pull ourselves out of the water and stand over everything Sam was able to save. What happened? Dude, they're here. They're totally here. The Mogadorians. The moment he says these words I feel sick to my stomach. My jaw quivers. Then Sam says, "I saw them in the front window and then, boom, the house is on fire." I grabbed what I could. There's movement on the roof. Between fissures of rising flames, I see a huge Mogadorian scout in a black trench coat, hat, and sunglasses marching down the decline, his feet sinking into the soft tiles with every step. He carries a long gleaming sword. I kneel and grab a hold of the chest's lock, and it yields under my glowing grip. Brushing aside the crystals at the bottom of the chest, I pick up the dagger with the diamond blade. Flames dancing from the house reflect in its sharp edge. To my surprise, the handle extends and wraps itself around my entire right hand. "Get back," I say to Sam. The scout reaches the metal eave of the collapsing roof, and he drops onto the patio below, his feet cracking the concrete when he lands. He slices the sword in the air in front of him and it leaves a glowing trail. I control my breath and go over the last week of training in my mind. The moment my feet push me forward, the scout roars and rushes at me with his trench coat billowing behind him. I see myself in his sunglasses the second before his sword swings across my body. I lean back far enough for him to miss me, but when I right myself, I enter the glowing trail the sword left behind. Pain attaches itself to my neck and travels to my waist. I'm knocked backwards and into the pool. When my head surfaces, I see Sam squaring off with the scout. His bare hands are up and out, he bobs his shoulders left and right. The scout laughs and drops his sword to the concrete, and he then mimics Sam's fighting stance. Before I can heave myself out of the pool to help, Sam drops his weight onto his left foot and circles his right behind him. His sopping right shoe comes back around and connects with the scout's face with a force that staggers him back several feet. The dazed scout picks up his gleaming sword. I'm up out of the pool before he can reach Sam, and I lift my dagger to block the plummeting sword. The blades meet, and there is a ball of light so bright I can't see for an instant. When the light fades, the scout's sword breaks at the exact spot my dagger collided with it. Not wasting the moment of surprise, I plunge the blade of my dagger into his chest and rip it downward. He turns to ash and it covers my feet. The house finally collapses, beams of wood crack in different directions, windows pop and explode from the walls, the roof flattening over it all like a book with a broken spine. A storm cloud appears overhead and a lightning bolt slices through the sky, landing just on the other side of the house. "We have to get to 6. Sam shouts. He's right, the proximity of the lightning can only mean she's in the middle of a battle. Or finishing one. With my one free hand, I heft the chest up and over the backyard's brick wall after making sure the coast is clear. Sam tosses the rest up to me and I then pull him to the wall's cement top. We jump and roll on the moist grass beyond the wall. Securing everything behind a thick bush, we run around to the front yard. In the middle of the driveway, just feet from our SUV, 6 has a scout in a headlock, the muscles in her arms pulsing in the squeeze. 2 more scouts are approaching. One aims a long, cylindrical tube right at me and a green light blasts me backwards. I can't breathe. I can't see. I roll into the high grass and feel the heat from the house. When I'm able to open my eyes, I see the scout with the tube standing above me. I slowly regain some feeling in my arms and legs. My breathing returns to normal. The handle of the dagger still encases my right hand. The scout adjusts a knob on the tube, perhaps going from stun to kill, and then he steps on my right wrist. I try swinging my legs up and over me, but they don't react the way I want them to, still sluggish from the paralyzing blast I just endured. The barrel of the tube is set between my eyes, and I think about the gun 6 turned on the drunk man just an hour ago. This is it, I think. The Mogadorian's mission is a success. Number 4, check. On to number 5. I watch hundreds of lights in the tube spark to life, swirling until they become one. Just as he puts his finger on the trigger, Bernie Koza clamps down on his thigh. The scout wobbles above me for a second before his head is separated from his body by a bolt of lightning. It rolls in the grass right next to mine, our noses touch before the head crumbles into a pile of ash, and I do everything I can not to breathe it in. The body above me falls over and covers my jeans with ash. "Get up already," Six yells, suddenly in the exact spot the scout had been. Sam appears above me, too, his face stern and dirty. "We have to leave right now, John." The sound of sirens pierces the night. A mile away, maybe less. Bernie Koza licks my left temple and whimpers. "What about the third one?" I whisper. Six looks over at Sam and nods. "I got a hold of his sword and used it against him." "Best moment of my life," he says. I'm draped over Six's shoulder, and she dumps me into the back seat of the SUV. Bernie Koza settles himself on my shins and licks my lifeless right hand. Sam takes the keys and gets behind the wheel while Six retrieves our stuff. As soon as we're on the highway and I no longer hear sirens, I'm able to relax and concentrate on my right hand. The dagger's handle transforms and retreats from my knuckles and wrist. I drop the dagger in the footwell. 15 minutes later, Six tells Sam to pull over, and we screech into the lit parking lot of a closed diner. She jumps out before the car has come to a complete stop, leaving the door open. "Help me," she orders. "Six, I don't want to be a dick right now, but I can't really move my arms and legs. Dude, just really dry. We have to get them off our tail," she says. "If we don't, then you're dead. Think about it." I struggle into a seated position and feel blood circulate to my legs. I climb out of the car and wave at her in my burned clothes, having no idea what she needs help with. "Find the bug," she says. "Sam, keep the car running." "Roger," he says. "Find the what?" I ask. "They use bugs to track vehicles. Trust me. They did it with me and Katerina." "What does it look like?" "I have no idea. But time is short, so look fast." I almost want to laugh. There isn't a single thing in the world I think I could do fast right now. But nonetheless, Six goes racing around the SUV while I slowly drop to a knee and manage to crawl beneath it, flashing my hands on its undercarriage. Bernie Koza gets to sniffing, starting at the bumper and moving his way forward. I spot it almost immediately, a small circular object no bigger than a quarter stuck to the plastic cover of the gas tank. "Got it?" I yell, plucking it off. I pull myself out and hand the device to Six while remaining on my back. She briefly studies it, then drops it in her pocket. "Aren't you going to destroy it?" "No," she answers. "Check again. We have to make sure there isn't a second, or a third." I crawl back under with my hands blazing, scooting from the back of the SUV to the front. I don't see anything. "You're sure?" she asks when I stand. "Yes." We get back in and speed away. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and Sam heads west. With Six's instructions, he keeps the SUV between 85 and 90, and I can't help but worry about police. After 30 miles, he jumps onto an interstate and drives south. "We're almost there," she says. 2 miles later she tells Sam to get off the interstate. "Stop. Right here, stop." Sam slams the brakes beside an idling semi whose owner is pumping gas. Six goes invisible and steps out, leaving the door ajar. "What's she doing?" Sam asks. "I don't know." After a few seconds the open door slams shut. Six reappears and tells Sam to get us back onto the highway, this time heading north. She's relaxed a bit, no longer holding a white-knuckled grip on the dashboard. Are you really going to make me ask what you just did? I say. She glances over. That truck was on its way to Miami. I stuck the tracking device on the underside of its trailer. Hopefully they'll lose a few hours trailing him south while we drive north. I shake my head. Should be an interesting night for that trucker. Once we're past the Ocala exits, Six tells Sam to get off and park behind a strip mall a few minutes from the interstate. We sleep here tonight, Six says. Actually, we'll take turns sleeping. Sam opens his door and turns his body sideways to dangle his feet out of the SUV. Guys? I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but well, I got cut pretty bad back there and it's really starting to hurt and I think I'm about to pass out. What? I scramble out of the vehicle and stand in front of him. He pulls up the dirty right leg of his jeans to reveal a wound above the knee that's slightly smaller than a credit card, though probably an inch deep. Dried and fresh blood cover his knee and shin. Good Lord, Sam, I say. When did that happen? Right before I got a hold of the Mog's sword. I kind of pulled it out of my leg. All right, come on, get out of the car, I say. Get on the ground. Six shoves her head under Sam's armpit and helps him to the ground. I open the back and retrieve the healing stone from the chest. Better hold on to something, man. This might sting. Six offers her hand, and he takes it. The second I press the stone to his wound he writhes in agony as every muscle tightens. It seems like he's going to pass out. The skin round his wound turns white, then black, then to the bright red color of blood, and I immediately regret attempting to use the stone on a human. Did Henri ever say it won't work on them? I'm trying to remember as Sam lets out a long-winded groan that empties him of air. The outer edge of the wound seals inward and then disappears altogether. Sam relaxes his grip on Six's hand, and he slowly regains his breath. After a minute he's able to sit up. Man, do I ever want to be an alien, he finally says. You guys get to do way too many cool things. You had me worried there for a second, buddy, I say. Wasn't sure if it would work on you since some of the other stuff from the chest doesn't. Me either, Six adds. She leans over and kisses him on his dirty cheek. Sam lies back down and sighs. Six laughs and rubs her hand over his head of stubble, and I'm surprised by how much jealousy bubbles inside me. Do you want to go to the hospital? I ask. I want to stay right here, he says. Forever. You know what? We were pretty lucky we were out on that walk, Six says after we settle back into the SUV. You're right, I say. Sam places his right cheek on his headrest so he can look at both of us. Why were you guys out walking in the first place? I couldn't sleep. Neither could Six, I answer, which technically is the truth, but it doesn't take away the guilt. I know that Sarah is the girl for me, but I can't seem to stop these new feelings I have. Six sighs. You know what this means, right? What? They've probably opened my chest. You don't know that for sure. No, I don't. But after I grabbed that rock from your chest and it started pulsing and hurting my hand, I haven't been able to shake the feeling I got from it. And it just now came to me that it probably has something to do with my chest. They've had your chest for 3 years now, I say. So you think it's possible for them to open the chests without us being dead? She shrugs. I don't know. Maybe. But I have this feeling that they got into mine and that when I touched that stone it somehow led the scouts to our house. Why send so few? Sam asks between yawns. I mean, why not wait for reinforcements before attacking? Maybe they got scared and panicked? Six offers. Maybe one of them wanted to be the hero, I say. 6 rolls down her window and listens. When she's satisfied, she says, regardless. Next time there will be more of them. Pythons and crowls and whatever else they can throw at us. You're probably right, Sam whispers. He's drifting off. I'll tell you one thing. This being on the run is really wearing me down. Try doing it for 11 years, I say. I think I'm a little homesick, he mumbles. I lean forward and see that in his lap he's holding his father's old glasses, the ones with the thick lenses he used to wear in paradise. It's not too late to go back, Sam. You know that, right? He frowns. I'm not going back. It's with far less conviction this time around than when he had first said it in the North Carolina motel. Not until I find my dad. Or until I at least learn what happened to him. His dad? 6 mouths to me, confused. Later, I mouth back. Fair enough, I say. We'll figure it out eventually. I turn back to 6. So, where do we head tomorrow morning? Now that it seems they opened my chest, I guess we'll see where the wind carries us. It hasn't let me down yet, she says in a wistful sort of tone, then glances over at me. Did you know that if it wasn't for the wind and my need for caffeine one night in Pennsylvania, the night before the attack in Paradise, I'd have never gotten there in time? What are you talking about? I ask. I was drifting through the Midwest, sensing you guys were in Ohio or in West Virginia or Pennsylvania after I found some news online of what I thought was probably the handiwork of Moggs in Athens near that college, but after a few weeks of coming up empty, I was certain I'd lost your trail. I figured you guys had taken off for California or Canada by that point. So there I was, standing in the parking lot of this strip mall, tired and lost, practically broke, when this huge gust of wind ripped past me and blew open the door to a coffee shop on my left. I thought I would refuel and get back out there and figure something out, but in the corner of the shop was an open computer for customers. I bought a large coffee and started searching the internet. Sure enough, I found an article about the house on fire that you jumped out of. I'm embarrassed to know how easy it was to find me. No wonder Henri wanted to keep me home or at school all the time. If it wasn't for that gust of wind opening that door, I would have probably ended up in a diner instead, sipping coffee until daylight. I wrote down all the information I could find on you guys and then I ran down the street looking for an all-night copy place. That's when I sent the fax and the letter with my number, to try to warn you guys or, at the very least, to tip you off so you could brace yourselves until I got there. And I arrived just in the nick of time. Chapter 18. The wind carries us north to an Alabama motel where we stay 2 nights. Again thanks to Sam using one of my identities. From there we drive west and spend a night beneath the stars in an open field in Oklahoma, which we follow up with 2 more nights in a Holiday Inn on the outskirts of Omaha, Nebraska. And from there, for no apparent reason, at least for no reason she'll admit to, 6 drives 1,000 miles east to rent a log cabin nestled in the mountains of the Maryland Panhandle. A mere 5-minute drive to the West Virginia border, and 3 short hours from the Mogadorian Cave. We're exactly 197 miles from Paradise, Ohio, where our journey first began. Half a tank of gas from Sarah. Before my eyes even open, I can already feel it's going to be a tough day, one of those days when the reality of Henri's death will hit me like a sledgehammer and no matter what I do, the pain won't leave. I've been having these days more often. Days filled with remorse. Filled with guilt. Filled with a genuine sadness to know I'll never talk to him again. The thought cripples me. I wish I could change it. But as Henri once said, some things can never be undone. And then there's Sarah, and the terrible guilt that's crept in since leaving Florida for allowing myself to get so close to 6 that I almost kissed her. I take a deep breath, finally opening my eyes. The pale morning light enters the room. Henri's letter, I think. I have no choice but to read it now. It's too dangerous to delay it any longer. Not after almost losing it in Florida. I slip my hand beneath the pillow and remove the diamond-bladed dagger and the letter. I've been keeping both of them close to me. I stare at the envelope for a moment, trying to imagine under what circumstances the letter was written. Then I sigh, knowing it doesn't really matter and that I'm just wasting time, and with the dagger I make a clean cut along the envelope's seal and remove the pages. Henri's perfect handwriting fills 5 yellow legal-sized sheets with thick black ink. I take a deep breath, and then let my eyes fall upon the top sheet. January 19th, J. I've written this letter many times over the years, never knowing whether it might be my last, but if you're reading this now, then surely the answer is yes. I'm sorry, John. I truly am. We Sapans who came, our duty was to protect you 9 at all costs, including our lives. But as I put down these words at our kitchen table, mere hours after you saved me in Athens, I know it's never been duty that has kept you and me together, but rather love that will always be a stronger bond than any obligation. The truth is that my death was always going to happen. The only variables were when and how, and if it hadn't been for you, then I would have certainly died today. Whatever the circumstances of my death, please don't blame yourself. I never expected to survive here, and when we left Lorien all those years ago, I knew I'd never be going back. In the time between me writing these words and you reading them, I wonder how much you've discovered. I'm confident you now know that I kept a lot from you. Probably more than I should have. For most of your life I wanted you to stay focused, to train hard. I wanted to give you as normal a life on Earth as I could. I'm sure you'll find that idea laughable, but to know the full truth would have added a world of stress during an already stressful time. Where to begin? Your father's name was Lyron. He was brave and powerful, and he lived his life with integrity and purpose. As you witnessed during your visions of the war, he carried out these traits until the very end, even when he knew the war was unwinnable. And that's about all any of us can really hope for, to die with our dignity, to die with honor and valor. To die knowing we did everything we could. That was the epitome of who your father was. It's the epitome of who you are, too, even if you don't necessarily believe it. I sit up, my back flat against the headboard, rereading my father's name over and over. The lump in my throat expands into a rock. I wish Sarah was here urging me to read on, her head on my shoulder. I focus my eyes on the next paragraph. When you were just a small child, your father came around even when he wasn't supposed to. He adored you, and he could sit for hours watching you play in the grass with Hadley. I wonder now, have you discovered Bernie Koza's true identity? And while I'm sure you don't remember much of those youthful days, I can safely say you were a happy boy. For a brief while, you had the sort of childhood all children deserve, though not all receive. While I spent considerable time with your father, I met your mother only once. Her name was Lara and, like your father, she was reserved and maybe even a little shy. I tell you this now because I want you to know who you are and who you come from. You come from a simple family of simple means, and the truth that I've always wanted to share with you is that we didn't leave Lorien because of where we happened to be that day. Our being at the airfield, it wasn't sheer happenstance. We were there because when the attack began, the guard rallied together to get you there. Many sacrificed their lives in the process. There were supposed to be 10 of you, though as you know only 9 made it off. Tears blur my vision. I slide my fingers over my mother's name. Lara. Lara and Lyron. I wonder what my Lorik name was, if it also started with an L. I wonder, if there wasn't a war, if I would have had a younger sister or brother. So much has been taken from me. When the 10 of you were born, Lorien recognized your strong hearts, your wills, your compassion, and in turn she bestowed the 10 of you with the roles you're all meant to assume, the roles of the original 10 elders. What this means is that, in time, those of you left will grow to be far stronger than anything Lorien has ever seen before, far stronger even than the original 10 elders from whom you've received your inheritances. The Mogadorians know this, which is why they're hunting you so feverishly now. They've grown desperate and have flooded this planet with spies. I never told you the truth because I feared it might drive you to arrogance and that you might be led astray, and there's far too much danger out there looking for you to risk that. I urge you, become strong, grow into the role you are meant to assume, and then find the others. Those of you left, you can still win this war. The last thing I have to tell you is that we didn't move to paradise by chance. Your legacies were delayed and I had begun to worry, and when my worry grew to a full-out panic when the third scar appeared, knowing you are next, I decided to seek out the one man who might hold the key to finding the others. When we arrived on Earth there were 9 humans waiting for us who understood our situation and our need to scatter. They were allies of the Lorik, and the last time we were here, 15 years ago, they were all given a transmission device that would turn itself on only if it came into contact with one of our ships. They were there that night to provide us guidance in the transition from Lorien to Earth, to help us get started. None of us had ever been here before. When we stepped off the ship, we were each given 2 pairs of clothes, a packet of instructions to help us learn this planet's ways, and a slip of paper with an address on it. The addresses were a place to start, not to stay, and none of us knew where the others were headed. Ours led us to a small town in Northern California. It was a nice, quiet place 15 minutes from the coast. I taught you to ride a bike there, and fly a kite, and more simple things like tying your shoes, which I had to first teach myself. We stayed 6 months, and then we went about our way, as I knew we must. The man who met you and me, our guide, was from here, from paradise, and I sought him because I was desperate to know where the others first went. But when we arrived here, the dark stars must have fallen, because the man was already gone. This man who met us that first day, who gave us a cultural guide to follow and who set us up in our first homes, his name was Malcolm Good. Sam's father. What I'm telling you now, John, is that I believe Sam was right. I believe his father was abducted. For Sam's sake, I can only hope he's still alive. And if Sam's still with you, I ask that you tell him this information, and I hope he finds comfort in hearing it. Become who you're meant to become, John. Grow strong and powerful and never forget for a minute the things you've learned along the way. Be noble, confident, and brave. Live with the same sort of dignity and valor that you inherited from your father, and trust in your heart and your will, as Lorien trusts in it still to this day. Never lose faith in yourself, and never lose hope. Remember, even when this world throws its worst and then turns its back, there is still always hope. And I'm certain, someday, you'll make it back home. With love. Your friend and Sipan. H. Blood pounds in my ears, and despite what Henri has written, I know in my heart that if we'd left paradise when he'd wanted to, then he'd still be alive. We'd still be together. He came to the school to save me, because it was his duty to, and because he loved me. And now he's gone. I take a deep breath, wipe my face with the back of my hand, and then walk from my room. Despite his bad leg, Sam insisted on taking the second floor, even when 6 and I offered to take it instead. I go up the stairs now and knock on his door. I enter and flip his bedside lamp on, and I see his father's old glasses on the nightstand. Sam stirs. Sam? Hey, Sam. Sorry to wake you up, but there's some major shit you need to know. That gets his attention and he pulls off the blanket. Tell me then. First, you have to promise not to get mad. I want you to know that I had no idea of any of what I'm about to tell you until just now. And whatever Henri's reasons were for not telling you to your face, you have to forgive him. He scoots up the mattress until his back rests on the headboard. Damn, John. Tell me already. Promise me. Fine, I promise. I hand him the letter. I should have read it sooner, Sam. I'm really sorry I didn't. I leave the room and close his door to give him the privacy he deserves. I'm not sure how he'll react. There's no telling how a person will accept the answer to the question they've asked most of their life, the question that's haunted them. I walk down the stairs and slip out the back door with Bernie Koza, who runs into the forest. I sit on the top of a picnic table. I can see my breath in the cool February air. Darkness is pushed to the west, while the morning light bleeds in from the east. I stare up at the half moon and wonder if Sarah is looking at it, or if any of the others might be seeing it. Me and the others, the 5 still alive, are meant to assume the roles of the elders. I still don't entirely understand what that means. Then I close my eyes and lift my face towards the sky. I stay that way until the door slides open behind me. I turn, expecting to see Sam, but it's 6. She climbs up on the picnic table and sits next to me. I offer her a weak smile, but she doesn't return it. I heard you walk out here. Is everything okay? Did you and Sam have a fight or something? She asks. What? No. Why? All I know is he's crying on the couch downstairs and he won't talk to me. I pause before telling her. I finally read the letter Henri left behind. There's some stuff about Sam he and I haven't told you. It's about his dad. What about his dad? Everything okay? I turn my body so our knees touch. Listen. When I met Sam in school he was pretty obsessed with the disappearance of his dad, who just didn't come home from the grocery store one day. They found his truck and his glasses on the ground next to the truck. You know those glasses that you see him carrying around all the time? 6 turns to look inside the back door. Wait. Those are his dad's? Yeah? And so the deal is that Sam is pretty convinced he was abducted by aliens, which I always thought was crazy, but I don't know, I let him go on believing it because who am I to crush the dude's hope of finding his dad again? I was waiting for Sam to tell you all this, but I just read Henri's letter, and you wouldn't believe what was in there. What? I tell her everything. About Sam's dad being a Lorik ally who met Henri and me when the ship landed, why Henri moved us to paradise. 6 slides off the top of the picnic table and lands awkwardly on the bench. That is just so totally random that Sam is here. In there. I don't think it is. I mean, think about it. It just so happens that of all the people in paradise I'm drawn to for a best friend, it happens to be Sam. I think we were destined to meet. Maybe you're right. Pretty cool that his dad helped us that night, right? The coolest. Remember when he said he had these feelings growing inside him about being with us? I do. But here's the thing. In Henri's letter he says that Sam's dad actually was abducted, or maybe even killed, by the Mogadorians. We sit in silence watching the sun slowly come up over the horizon. Bernie Koza jogs out of the forest and rolls onto his back to have his belly rubbed. Hey there, Hadley. He flips onto his feet instantly when I say it, tilting his beagle head. Yeah, I say, jumping down to scratch his chin with both hands. I know. Sam walks out. His eyes are red. He sits next to 6 on the bench. "Hi, Hadley," Sam says to Bernie Koza. BK barks in response and licks his hands. "Hadley?" 6 asks. The dog barks again in approval. "I always knew it," Sam says. "Always?" "From the day he disappeared." "You were right all this time," I say. "Do you mind if I read the letter?" 6 asks. Sam hands it to her. I aim my right palm at the front page and turn on its light. She reads the letter in its radiance, then folds the pages and hands them back. "I'm really sorry, Sam," she says. I add, "Henri and I wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for your dad." 6 then turns to me. "You know, it's ridiculous that your parents were Lyran and Lara. Or it's ridiculous I didn't realize that myself. Do you remember me from Lorien, John? Your parents and my parents, their names were Aaron and Lynn. They were best friends. I know we weren't around our parents all that often, but I remember going to your house a few times. You were just a toddler at the time, I think. It takes me a few seconds to remember what Henri once told me. It was the day Sarah had gotten back from Colorado, the day we confessed being in love with one another. After she left, Henri and I were eating dinner and he said, though I don't know her number, or have any idea where she is, one of the children who came to Earth with us was the daughter of your parents' best friends. They used to joke that it was fate that the two of you would end up together. I almost tell 6 what Henri said, but remembering how that conversation came about because of my feelings for Sarah brings back the same guilt I felt since 6 and I went for our walk. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. I don't really remember it, though, I say. Regardless, this is some heavy stuff about the elders and how we're supposed to assume their roles. No wonder the Mogs are so relentless, she says. Definitely makes sense. We have to go back to paradise, Sam interrupts. Yeah, right. 6 laughs. What we need to do is find the others somehow. We need to get back on that laptop. Train some more. Sam stands. No, I'm serious, guys. We have to go back. If my dad left something behind, that transmission device, I think I know how to find it. When I was 7, he told me that my future was mapped on the sundial. I would ask him what he was talking about, and he'd just say that if the dark stars ever fell, I was supposed to find the Ened and read the map by my birth date on the sundial. What's an Ened? I ask. It's a group of 9 deities in Egyptian mythology. 9? 6 asks. 9 deities? And what's sundial? I ask. It's starting to make sense to me now, Sam says. He begins walking around the picnic table as he puts it together in his head, Bernie Koza nipping at his heels. I used to get so frustrated because he was always saying all this weird stuff that only he understood. A few months before he disappeared, my dad dug a well in our backyard and he said it would collect the rainwater from the gutters and whatever, but after the concrete was poured, he put this elaborate-looking sundial on the stone lid. Then he stood looking down at the well and he said to me, "Your future's mapped on the sundial, Sam. And you never checked it out?" I ask. Sure I did. I twisted the sundial around, trying my date and time of birth and a few other things, but nothing ever happened. I thought it was just a stupid well with a sundial on it after a while. But now that I read Henri's letter, the part about the dark stars, I know that it has to be some kind of clue to all this. It's like he told me without telling me, Sam beams. He was so smart. So are you, I say. This could very well be suicide, us going back to paradise, but I don't think we have much of a choice now. Chapter 19. I wake with clenched teeth, a sour taste in my mouth. I tossed and turned all night, not only because the chest is finally in my possession and I'm anxious to try to talk Adelina into opening it with me this morning, but also because I revealed too much to too many people. I put my legacies on full display. How much would they all remember? Will I be exposed before breakfast? I sit up and see Ella in her bed. Everyone is still asleep in the room, except for Gaby, Laghorda, Delphina, and Bonita. Their beds are empty. My feet are about to touch the ground when Sister Lucia appears in the doorway, her hands on her hips, her mouth twisted into a frown. We make eye contact and I lose my breath. But then she takes a couple steps backwards and allows the 4 girls from the nave to wobble into the room, dazed and bruised, their clothes ripped and dirty. Gaby stumbles to her bed and falls face first onto it, the pillow enveloping her head. Laghorda rubs her double chin and lies back onto her bed with a grunt, and Bonita and Delphina slowly crawl under their covers. As soon as all 4 girls are motionless, Sister Lucia yells that it's time to get up. And that means everyone. As I try to pass by Gaby on the way to the bathroom, she flinches. Laghorda stands at the mirror inspecting the discoloration of her skin. When she sees my reflection over her shoulder, she immediately turns on the faucet and tries to focus on washing her hands. I can get used to this. I don't really want to intimidate people, but I like the idea I might be left alone. Ella skips out of one of the bathroom stalls and waits her turn at the sinks to wash up. I worry that she's going to be scared of me because of what I did in the nave, but the moment she sees me, Ella dramatically flexes her right hand over her head. I lean into her ear. "So you're okay?" "Thanks to you," she says loudly. I catch Laghorda's eyes in the mirror. "Hey," I whisper. "Last night is our little secret. Everything that happened last night is our secret, okay? Don't tell anyone." She puts her finger to her closed lips and I feel better, but there is something about the way Laghorda looked at me that doesn't sit well. I'm so preoccupied by what might be in the chest that I forego my morning internet search for news on John and Henri Smith. I don't have the patience to wait for morning mass to see Adelina, so I walk from room to room looking for her, but she's nowhere to be found. The first bell rings for morning mass. I shuffle in beside Ella in one of the last rows and wink at her. I locate Adelina in the front row. Halfway through mass, Adelina looks over her shoulder and makes eye contact with me. When she does, I point up to the nave's nook where she hid the chest so many years ago. Her eyebrows raise. "I couldn't understand what you were saying," Adelina says after mass. The 2 of us stand under a stained glass window of St. Joseph on the left side of the nave, and we're bathed in a patchwork of muted yellows, browns, and reds. Her eyes match the seriousness of her posture. "I found the chest." "Where?" I nod my head up and to the right. "I am the one who was supposed to decide when you're ready, and you are not ready." "Not even close," she says angrily. I pull my shoulders back and set my jaw. "I was never going to be ready in your eyes because you stopped believing, Emlina." The name catches her off guard. She opens her mouth and stops before letting loose whatever tirade is on her tongue. "You have no idea what I'm going through in here with these other girls. While you're walking around holding onto your Bible and praying and counting the beads on your rosary, you don't care at all that I'm getting bullied, that I have just one friend, that all the sisters hate me, and that there's a whole world out there that I'm supposed to be defending." 2 worlds, actually. Lorien and Earth need me and they need you, and I'm holed up in here like an animal in the zoo and you don't even care. Of course I care. I start to cry. No you don't. No you don't. Maybe you cared back when you were a Detu and maybe a little when you were Emelina, But ever since you've been Adelina and I've been Marina, you haven't cared about me or the other 8 or what we're supposed to be doing here. I'm sorry, but I can't stand you talking to me about salvation when that's all I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to protect us. I'm trying to do so much good, and you act as if I'm evil or something. Adelina takes a step forward, her arms open for a hug, but something causes her to retreat and take a step back. Her shoulders bounce as she starts to cry. My arms immediately wrap around her and we embrace. What's wrong? Why isn't Marina in the cafeteria? We turn to see Sister Dora with her arms crossed over her chest. A copper crucifix hangs over her wrists. Go, Adelina whispers. We'll talk about this later. I wipe my face and rush past Sister Dora. As I leave the nave I can hear snippets of a heated argument brewing between Sister Dora and Adelina, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling, and I run my hands through my hair in hope. Before sneaking back into the sleeping quarters last night, I floated the chest down the narrow dark hallway to the left of the nave, past the ancient statues cut into the rock wall. It now sits hidden atop the narrow tower of the north belfry, secure behind the padlocked oak door. It's safe there for the moment, but if I can't convince Adelina to open it with me soon, I'll have to find another location. Ella is nowhere to be found in the cafeteria, and I worry that my legacy has somehow backfired and she's at the hospital. She's in Sister Lucia's office, a girl says when I ask the girls at the table nearest the door. There was a married couple with her. I think they're going to adopt her or something. She pours a spoonful of soggy eggs onto her plate. So lucky. My knees buckle, and I catch myself from falling to the ground by gripping the edge of the table. I have no right to be so upset at the thought of Ella leaving the orphanage, but she's my one friend. Of course I knew she would be on the sisters' short list of adoptable girls. Ella is 7 and sweet and cute and wonderful to be around. I truly hope she finds a home, especially after losing her parents, but I'm not ready to let her go, regardless of how selfish it is. It was determined when Adelina and I arrived that I'd never be adopted, but I sit there now wondering if it might have been better if I was eligible. Maybe someone would have fallen in love with me. I realize that even if Ella is adopted today, it'll take some time for all the paperwork to be reviewed and accepted, which means she'll be here a week, maybe 2, maybe 3. But it still breaks my heart, and makes me even more determined to leave this place as soon as I get the chest opened. I slump out of the cafeteria and find my coat, then sneak through the double doors and march down the hill, not caring that I'm skipping school. I keep an eye out for the man with the Pittacus book, staying on the sidewalk behind the vendor's on-call principal, bouncing from shadow to shadow. As I walk past El Pescador, the village restaurant, I look down the cobblestone alley and see the lid of a trash cantina and then crash to the ground. The trash can itself begins to quake and wobble, and I hear something scraping at its insides. A pair of black and white paws curl over the lip of the can. It's a cat, and when he struggles over the edge and lands on the alley floor, I see a long gash running along his right side. An eye is swollen shut. It looks as though he is about to fall over from exhaustion or starvation, and he just lies in a pile of trash as if he's given up. You poor thing, I say. I know I'm going to heal him before I take my first step down the alley. He purrs when I kneel down next to him, and when I place my hand on his fur there isn't resistance. The iciness flows quickly from me to the cat, quicker than it did to Ella or my own cheek, and I don't know if the legacy is getting stronger or if it works faster on animals. His legs straighten and paws spread wide, and his breathing picks up until it melts into a loud purr. I gently turn the cat over to inspect his right side and see that it's completely healed and covered with a lush coat of black fur. The eye that was swollen shut is now open and looking up at me. I name him Legacy and say, If you want to ride out of town, Legacy, then we should talk. Because I think I'm leaving soon, and I could use the company. I'm startled by a figure appearing at the end of the alley, but it's just Hector pushing his mother in the wheelchair. "Ah, Marina of the Sea!" he yells. "Hi, Hector Ricardo." I walk towards them. His mother looks slumped and distant, and I worry she's gotten worse. "Who is your friend?" "Hello, little man." Hector bends down to scratch Legacy's chin. "Just some company I've picked up along the way." We walk quietly, chatting about the weather and Legacy, until arriving at Hector and his mother's front door. "Hector? Have you seen the man with the mustache and book at the cafe recently?" "No, I have not," he says. "What is it about this man that bothers you so much?" I pause. "He just looks like somebody I know." "Is that everything?" "Yes." He can tell I'm lying but also knows enough not to pry. I know he'll be on the lookout for the man I believe is a Mogadorian. I just hope he doesn't get hurt. "It was good to see you, Marina. Remember that today is his school day." He winks. I nod sheepishly, and he unlocks his front door, backing inside, pulling his sick mother along with him. The coast is clear over my shoulder and I continue with my walk for a while, thinking about the chest, when I will be able to talk again with Adelina. I also think about John Smith on the run, Ella and her possible adoption, my fight last night in the nave. At the end of call principal, I stare at the school building, hating the front door and the windows, angry at all the time I've spent inside when I should have been on the move, changing my name with each new country. I wonder what I would name myself in America. Legacy meows around my feet as I make my way back through the village. I am still walking in the shadows, studying the street blocks ahead of me. I peek inside the window of the cafe, hoping and not hoping to see the Mogadorian with the thick mustache. He's not there, but Hector already is, and he's laughing at something the woman at the next table just said. I'm going to miss Hector just as much as I'll miss Ella. I have two friends, not one. Ducking under the window as I pass, I can't help but look down at Legacy's lush black and white fur coat. Less than an hour ago the cat was lying in an alley, bleeding on a pile of trash, and now he's a ball of energy. My ability to heal and breathe new life into plants and animals and humans is an enormous responsibility. Fixing Ella made me feel more special than I ever had before, and it wasn't because I felt like a hero, but because I helped someone who needed it. I slink a few doors down the street and Hector's laugh travels through the cafe window and wraps itself around my shoulders, and I know what I need to do. The front door is locked, but when I go around to the back of Hector's house, the first window I try opens with ease. Legacy licks his paws as I climb up and through the window. Jitters attack. I have never broken into someone's house before. The house is small and dark inside, and the air is heavy. Every foreseeable surface is covered with Catholic figurines. I find Hector's mother's room in no time. She lies on a twin bed in the far corner, her blankets slowly rising with each breath. Her legs are twisted at unnatural angles, and she looks frail. Pill bottles line a small nightstand, along with rosary beads, a crucifix, a miniature statue of the Virgin Mary with her hands held in prayer, and 10 or so saints I don't know the names of. I drop to my knees beside Carlotta's sleeping body. Her eyes flutter open and scan the air. I freeze and hold my breath. I've never talked to her before, though when she finds me crouching beside her, a glint of recognition registers. She opens her mouth to speak. "Hush," I say to her. "I'm a friend of Hector's, Senora Ricardo. I don't know if you can understand me, but I'm here to help you." She accepts what I have told her with fluttering eyelids. I reach up and caress the side of her cheek with the back of my left hand, and then I rest it on her forehead. Her gray hair is dry and brittle. She closes her eyes. My heart's pounding, and I can see a noticeable shake in my hand when I lift it and place it on her stomach, and it's then that I can feel how weak and sick she really is. The cold tingle crawls up my spine and spreads down my arms and into the tip of each finger. I grow dizzy. My breathing quickens, and my heart beats even faster. I begin to sweat despite the prickly chill turning my skin cold. Carlotta's eyes open, and a low groan escapes her open mouth. I close my eyes. "Hush, it's okay, I say to comfort the both of us. And then, with the icy chill radiating from me to her, I begin to pull the sickness away. It retreats stubbornly, clinging tightly to her insides, reluctant to loosen its grip, but finally even the stubborn bits let go. Slight tremors cause Carlotta to convulse and shake, and I do my best to hold her down. I open my eyes just in time to see the ashen color of Carlotta's face change to a pink glow. Vertigo sweeps through me. I lift my hands from her body and fall backwards to the floor. My heart thuds so violently that it scares me, like it's about to break free from my body. But in time it slows, and when I finally pull myself to my feet, I see Carlotta sitting up with a bewildered look, as though trying to remember where she is and how she'd gotten here. I rush into the kitchen and drink 3 glasses of water. When I walk back, Carlotta is still gathering her bearings. I make another quick decision. I go to the nightstand and rifle through the 10 or so pill bottles, finding the label I'm looking for. Warning: may cause drowsiness. I open it, take 4 pills, and shove them in my pocket. What's going on? Carlotta asks. She is frantic. Where am I? Who are you? I don't answer her, and instead walk from the room. But before I leave, I turn and look at Carlotta once more. She's watching me with her healed, untwisted legs dangling over the bed as though she's about to stand. I rush out of the house and find Legacy sleeping underneath the back window. Keeping to the alleys and side streets, I make my way back to the orphanage with the cat in my arms, wondering how Hector will react when he finds his mother cured. The problem, however, is that in a village this small, secrets don't last very long. My only hope is that nobody saw me come or go, and that Carlotta won't remember what really happened. Outside the double doors, I unzip my coat halfway and carefully place Legacy inside. I know just where I can keep him safe, up in the north belfry with the chest. The chest, I think. I have to get it open. Chapter 20. Being in love is a very strange thing. Your thoughts constantly drift towards this other person, no matter what you're doing. You could be reaching for a glass in a cupboard or brushing your teeth or listening to someone tell a story, and your mind will just start drifting towards their face, their hair, the way they smell, wondering what they'll wear, and what they'll say the next time they see you. And on top of the constant dream state you're in, your stomach feels like it's connected to a bungee cord, and it bounces and bounces around for hours until it finally lodges itself next to your heart. That's how I've felt since the first day I met Sarah Hart. I can be training with Sam or trying to find my shoes in the back of our SUV, and the thought of Sarah's face and her lips and ivory skin take over me. I can be giving directions from the back seat and still be 100% focused on the way it feels when the top of Sarah's head rests just under my chin. And I can be surrounded by 20 mogs, my palms just starting to light up, and I'll be analyzing every line of conversation from Thanksgiving dinner at Sarah's. But what's even more insane is that as we drive the speed limit towards Paradise at 9 o'clock at night, as we drive right towards Sarah and her blonde hair and blue eyes, I'm also thinking about Six. I'm thinking about the way she smells, the way she looks in her training outfits, how we almost kissed back in Florida. My stomach also hurts because of Six. Not only because of her, but because of the fact my best friend also has a crush on her. I need to buy some antacids the next time we stop. While Sam drives, we debate Henri's letter and talk about how cool Sam's dad is for not only helping the people of Lorien but also for giving Sam a riddle to find the transmitter device in case anything were to happen to him. And still I'm going back and forth between Sarah and Six in my head. We're 2 hours from paradise when Six asks, "But what if it's nothing, though? I mean, what if there's nothing down in that well but some weird birthday present or anything else but the transmitter?" We're risking a lot, like a lot, by showing up in paradise like this. "Trust me," Sam says. He drums his thumbs on the steering wheel and turns up the stereo. I've never been so certain of anything in my entire life. And I get straight as, "Thank you very much." I think the Mogadorians are waiting, in far greater numbers than what we faced in Florida, watching everything that might lead them to us. And if I'm going to be honest with myself, the only reason I'm willing to take this risk is because of the possibility of seeing Sarah. I lean forward in the back seat and pat Sam's right shoulder. "Sam, no matter what happens with that well and sundial, Six and I owe you big time for what your dad did for us. But I really hope that it leads to a transmitter." "Don't worry," Sam says. Highway lights come and go. Bernie Koza's floppy ears fall from the edge of the seat as he sleeps. I'm nervous about seeing Sarah. Nervous about being so close to Six. "Hey, Sam," I ask. "You wanna play a game?" "Yeah, sure. What do you think Six's Earth name is?" Six whips her head over her shoulder, her raven hair slapping her right cheek, and she frowns at me in mock anger. "She has won." Sam laughs. "Just guess," I say. "Yeah, Sam," Six says. "Guess." Striker?" I laugh so hard Bernie Koza jumps up to look out the nearest window. "Striker?" Six yells. "Not Striker, then? Okay. I don't know, something like Persia or Eagle or..." "Eagle?" Six yells. "Why would I be Eagle?" "You're such a badass, you know." Sam laughs. "I just figured you would be like a Starfire or like Thunderclap or something really badassy." "Exactly," I shout. "That's totally what I thought, too." "So what is it then?" he asks. Six crosses her arms and looks out the passenger side window. "I'm not telling you until you make a real guess with a real girl's name." "Eagle, Sam. Give me some credit." "What? I'd name myself Eagle if I had the chance," Sam says. "Eagle good. That sounds pretty awesome, right?" "It sounds like a brand of cheese," Six says. We all laugh at that. "Okay. Rachel?" Sam says. "Brittany?" Yuck, she says. "Fine. Rebecca? Claire? Oh, I know. Beverly. You are insane." Six laughs. She punches Sam's thigh, and he howls and rubs at it dramatically. He hits her back, a couple of knuckles on her left bicep, and she feigns severe pain. "Her name is Maren Elizabeth," I say. "Maren Elizabeth? Or, you gave it away," he says. "I was going with Maren Elizabeth next." "Yeah, right," she says. "No, I was. Maren Elizabeth's pretty cool. Do you want us to start calling you that? 4 goes by Jean, right 4? I scratch Bernie Koza's head. I don't think I could get used to calling him Hadley, but maybe I could get used to calling Six Maren Elizabeth. "I think you should take on a human name," I say. "If not Maren Elizabeth, then something else. I mean, at least for when we're in front of strangers." Everyone grows silent, and I reach behind me into the chest for the velvet bag holding Lorian's solar system. I set the 6 planets and the sun in my palm and watch them hover and glow to life. As the planets begin to orbit their sun, I find that I am able to dim the brightness of their glow with my mind. I intentionally lose myself in them, successfully forgetting just for a few moments that I might be seeing Sarah soon. 6 turns to look at the faint solar system that floats in front of my chest, and then she finally says, "I don't know, I still like the name 6. Ma and Elizabeth was when I was a different person, and right now 6 just feels right. It can be short for something if someone asks." Sam looks over. "For what? 60? I set out 7 mugs and a kettle on the stove. While waiting for the water to boil, I crush 3 of the pills I stole from Hector's mother into a fine powder with the rounded backside of a metal spoon. Ella stands beside me watching as she always does when it's my turn to make the sisters' nightly tea. "What are you doing?" she asks. "Something I'm probably going to regret," I say. "But something I have to do." Ella flattens a piece of crumpled paper on the table and places the tip of her pencil on it. Immediately she's drawing a perfect picture of the 7 teacups I've lined up. From what I can get out of her, she met with a couple in Sister Lucia's office who said they had a lot of love to give. I'm not sure how long the meeting lasted, but Ella says they're coming back tomorrow. I know what it means and I pour the boiling water from the kettle as slowly as I can, trying to prolong my time with her. "Ella? How often do you think about your parents?" I ask. Her brown eyes grow wide. "Today? Sure. Today, or any other day?" "I don't know," she trails off. After a pause, she adds, "A million times?" I bend down to hug her, and I don't know if it's because of how sorry I feel for her or how sorry I feel for myself. My parents are dead, too. The victims of a war I'm supposed to continue someday. I scoop the crushed pills into Adelina's teacup, regretting that I've resorted to drugging her. There's no other choice. She can stand by and wait for death if that's what she chooses, but I refuse to give up or to go down without a fight, without doing everything within my power to survive. With the tray teetering in my hands, I leave Ella at the table and make my rounds. One by one I hand the tea out around the orphanage, and when I'm ushered into the sisters' quarters to deliver Adelina her tea, I carefully shove her cup towards the front edge. She takes it with a polite nod. Sister Camilla is feeling ill this evening and I have been asked to sleep in the children's quarters tonight for her. "Okay," I say. As I think about the possibilities of Adelina and me being in the same room tonight, I watch her take a long sip from her teacup. I can't tell if I just made a huge mistake or helped my cause immensely. "I will see you soon then," she says. Then she winks at me. I'm taken aback, almost dropping the 2 remaining cups from my tray to the floor. "Oh okay," I stutter. When curfew comes a half hour later, nobody falls asleep right away, and instead many girls whisper to one another in the dark. I lift my head every few minutes to look at Adelina lying on her bed across the room. Her wink has left me confused. 10 more minutes pass. I can tell most everyone is still awake, including Adelina. She's usually quick to fall asleep when she's on duty, so the fact that she's still up tells me that she's also waiting for everyone in the room to fall asleep. Now I think her wink definitely meant she wanted to resume our conversation. The room falls silent, and I wait before I lift my head. Adelina hasn't moved in the last half hour, so I move the left legs of her bed off the ground and tip her slightly. Suddenly she raises her left arm above her like a white flag of surrender, and she points to the doorway. I toss the covers aside, stand, then tiptoe from the room. When I reach the hall I slink a few paces into the shadows, holding my breath, hoping this isn't some sort of trap Adelina and Sister Dora have set up. After 30 seconds, Adelina enters the hallway. Her walk is labored and she sways from side to side. "Come with me," I whisper, taking her hand. I haven't held her hand in years, and it brings back the memory of us huddling together on the boat to Finland, when I was sick and she was strong. We were once so close you couldn't slide a piece of paper between us. Now the mere touch of her hand feels alien. "I'm so tired," Adelina confesses as we climb to the second floor. We're halfway to the north wing and the belfry protected by the padlock. "I don't know what's wrong with me." "I do. Do you want me to carry you?" "You can't carry me." "Not with my arms," I say. She's too tired to argue. I focus on her feet and legs, and a few seconds later I've lifted Adelina off the floor and begin to float her down the dusty corridors. We pass the ancient statues cut into the rock wall and enter the narrower hallway in silence. I worry that she's fallen asleep, but then she says, "I can't believe you're using telekinesis to fly an old lady like me down the hall." "Where are we going?" "I had to hide it," I whisper. "We're almost there, I promise." I unlock the padlock and it falls from the oak door's handle, and soon I'm following a floating Adelina up the stone stairway that circles around the north tower leading to the belfry. I can hear Legacy faintly meowing from the top. I open the door to the belfry and set Adelina gently down next to the chest. She props her left arm up on the chest lid and leans her head against it. I can see she has just about lost her battle with the pills, and I'm angry with myself now for tricking her. Legacy climbs into her lap and licks her right hand. "How is there a cat in here?" she mumbles. "Don't ask. Listen, Adelina, you're almost completely asleep, and I need you to open the chest with me before you are, okay?" "I don't think I have." "Have what?" I ask. "Have it in me right now, Marina." Her eyes are closed. "Yes, you do." "Put your hand on the chest's lock." Put my hand on the other side. I press my palm against the side of the lock and it feels warm. I use telekinesis to pull her right hand away from Legacy's tongue and onto the other side of their lock. She interlocks her fingers with mine. A second passes. The lock snaps open. Guys? Something's totally happening back here. The 7 orbs that hover in front of my chest in the back seat of the SUV are speeding up, and I can no longer control them. It gets so bright that I have to cover my eyes. Hey, dude, cut it out. Sam barks. I'm trying to drive up here. I don't know what's going on. Pull over. 6 yells. Sam rips the vehicle onto the shoulder of the road and slams on the brakes, stone and gravel crunching and pinging us. The 6 planets and 1 sun dim in brightness, and the planets start to whip around the sun at such a rate that it's hard to focus on any single one. With each orbit the planets are absorbed into the sun until it's the size of a basketball. The new globe rotates as though on an axis, and then it produces a flash of light so bright that I'm momentarily blinded. It slowly dims, and sections of its surface raise and recede until what's left behind is a perfect replica of Earth itself, all 7 continents, all 7 seas. Is that? Sam asks. That looks like Earth. The planet spins near my head, and on its 3rd or 4th rotation I see a small pinprick of pulsing light. Do you guys see that little light? I ask. Look at Europe. Oh, yeah, Sam says. He waits for another rotation and then squints. I would say that's in what? Spain or Portugal? Can someone reach the laptop? Hurry. With my eyes still on the globe and the tiny pulsing light, I crash my hand around behind me until I find the laptop. I hand it to Six, who hands it Sam. He looks up at the globe hovering in the back seat, types and looks up. Well, it's definitely in Spain, and it looks to be close to, well, The closest city seems to be a place called Leon. But that's slightly off. We're looking at the Picos de Europa Mountains for sure. Anyone ever heard of them? Definitely not, I say. Me neither, 6 says. Is that maybe our ship? I ask. No way, not in Spain. Well, at least I highly doubt it, she says. I mean, if it is our ship, then why would it just start glowing now, showing us where it is? That wouldn't make any sense. Besides, you've looked at these things how many times? A dozen, I say. Maybe more. Sam hugs his headrest and raises his eyebrows. Right. So it's as if something just activated it. 6 and I look at each other. It could definitely be one of the others, Sam says. Could be, 6 says. Or it could be a trap. She looks at Sam. Has there been any suspicious news from Spain? He shakes his head. Not as of 5 hours ago. But I'll check again right now. He starts typing on the keyboard. Before you do that, let's get off the main road before someone notices there's a glowing planet of Earth floating in the car, I say. We're pretty damn close to paradise, remember? Adelina snores and I feel guilty, but for the first time in my life I see the inheritance I should have received years ago. Rocks and gems of different colors, different sizes and shapes. A pair of dark gloves and a pair of dark glasses, both made of materials I've never seen before. There's a small tree branch with the bark pared away, and under that there is an odd circular device with a glass lens and floating needle not unlike a compass. But it's a glowing red crystal that has me most intrigued. Once I look at it I can't look away, and I slowly reach down and take it in my hand. It's warm and tingly in my palm. For a brief second the red light brightens, and then it fades and begins to slowly pulse at the same rate I breathe. The crystal grows hotter, brighter, and it begins to emit a low hum. I panic, nervous that one of my legacies has activated a Loric grenade. Adelina. I yell. Wake up! Wake up, please! She furrows her brow and her snoring intensifies. With my free hand I shake her shoulder. Adelina. I shake her harder, and as I do I drop the crystal. It bounces hard on the belfry's stone floor and rolls towards the doorway. As it falls from the first stair to the second, the red light stops pulsing. As it falls from the second stair to the third, it stops glowing altogether. And as it falls to the fourth stair, I chase after it. Sam zips us down a dark dirt road. The globe continues to whir in my face. The tiny pulsing light continues to try to tell us something. We come to a stop, and Sam kills the engine and lights. So, I'm thinking it's one of you guys, Sam says, turning around. It's another number. And that number is in Spain. We have no way of knowing that, 6 says. Sam nods at the globe. Okay, look. You guys were meant to stay apart from one another when you first arrived, right? That's how it worked. You all go off in hiding until your legacies develop and you train and everything. And then what? Then you get together and you fight together. So this light right here, maybe that's a signal to get together, or more likely, it's a distress signal from one of the remaining numbers. Or, guys, maybe number 5 or number 9 just opened up their chest for the first time, and because we have this thing running at the same time, we can communicate. Maybe they see we're in Ohio, then? I ask. Shit. Maybe. Possibly. But seriously, think about it. If the elders were going to give you all this stuff in your chests, then they'd give you something to communicate with each other. Right? Maybe we just unlocked the key somehow, and we've got the location of someone who needs our help, he says. Or maybe one of the others is getting tortured and they're being forced to contact us and it's a trap, 6 says. Just as I'm about to agree, the edges of Earth grow fuzzy and then the entire globe vibrates with a female voice that says, Adeline. Inverted exclamation mark dispieter. Inverted exclamation mark dispieter, por favor. Adeline. I'm about to yell back, but the globe suddenly shrinks, reforms into the 7 orbs and returns to normal. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What just happened? I ask. I'd say the signal has been cut, Sam says. Who was that girl? And who's Adeline? 6 asks. I catch the stone after it bounces off the 9th stair, but no matter what I do it doesn't glow like it did before. I shake it in my palm. I blow on it. I set it in Adelina's open hand. It doesn't change from its new faint blue color, and I'm worried I broke it. I carefully set it back inside the chest and pick up the short tree branch. With a deep breath, I stick the branch out one of the 2 windows and I concentrate on the opposite end. There's a bit of a magnetic force happening, but before I can really test it or figure it out, I hear the oak door at the bottom of the tower creak open.